Hello, students. Welcome to English class. I'm your English teacher, Mr. Oza, and it is time for us to work on classwork number 59. We are reading our novel, The Kite Runner, written by the author Khalid Hosseini. And this is chapter 5 that we're going to read today. Today's chapter is called The Checkpoint. All right, just a quick warning before we get started. The concept of rape is insinuated in this chapter. Part of our work this term will be learning how to prevent child abuse, much like we learned how to prevent sexual assault in the last term. If you do not feel comfortable studying this material, please let your teacher know, which is me, obviously. I just want you guys to be aware of the insinuation of rape in this chapter. Again, this might be a trigger for some people, so I don't want to force you into this topic if you don't feel comfortable. Like in the last chapter, we saw one of the main characters abused by an older kid, by a bully, and raped in an alley after this kite fighting tournament, which you remember from the last chapter. In today's chapter, rape is simply insinuated. Like there's a guy who, is trying to rape somebody, but there is not the content is not so explicit as last chapter. Still, it is a tough subject matter to talk about. Things are going to turn out very differently in this chapter. In fact, chapter 4, which we read, last class, or whenever that was for you, chapter 4, we see kind of the worst possible scenario. And actually, in today's chapter, we actually see the best possible scenario, right? Like I said, part of our work here is preventing abuse, preventing sexual assault, and preventing child abuse and stuff like that. In chapter 4, the main character failed and allowed something horrible to happen. Today's actually a best case scenario. We see, the abuser stopped. And so that's kind of a positive aspect of today's reading. So just wanted to put that out there just so that you are aware of what you're about to read about. So some directions. I hope that you've already looked at some pictures. You've already done your prediction and question, and I had a chance to hopefully respond to them. Now you're watching the video, which is great. Once the video is over, read the chapter, PDF in the document, fill out the SMM, or the Says Means Matter chart, and then do a quick open response. So it's the same directions that you are used to. So first things first, we're going to talk about what's happening after the kite fighting tournament. In the 1980s, the Soviet Union, which is now Russia, invaded Afghanistan. And in class, we can talk more about the specific details of why they did this. But basically, in the Cold War, the United States had some allies in the area, and Soviet Union wanted some control in this geographic location. So they invaded Afghanistan and basically took it over for a period of time. And as you can see, what's going on here is they used a series of airstrikes here on the capital city of Kabul. And they used also ground forces like tanks and troops and boots on the ground, here to kind of take over every major city in the country. All right, so what did this do to the regular people in Afghanistan? Well, a lot of people were just forced to deal with it, but people who had money, people who had a little bit of wealth, were able to pack up and leave. All right, Baba, the father of Amir, was a very wealthy, successful businessman. So he was able to pay smugglers to try and get him across the border. And so what we're seeing in the book today is Amir and Baba basically on a big truck getting smuggled out of the country. And so they've got to sneak through here, along with the danger of being around those Soviet soldiers, sneak across the border. Here you see this dotted line. That is the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and they are trying to sneak across the border into this Pakistani city called Peshawar right here. All right, and as they are on this adventure, to put it lightly, an adventure, right? They're refugees leaving the country. They run into some Soviet soldiers, and that's what's happening in the chapter today. So this is an actual picture from the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and now here's a picture from the movie, the Kite Runner movie. Here you have a Soviet soldier who opens up the back of the truck. He sees all the refugees. Refugee, by the way, means like a person leaving a country for specific reasons, usually due to war, but it can be other reasons like famine, disease, natural disaster, that sort of stuff. So he opens up the back of the truck, with his AK-47 right here, this, assault rifle, and he says, "I want 30 minutes alone with this woman." And, the insinuation is that he wants to rape her. If you remember in the last chapter, we saw Hassan, the best friend of Amir, raped by an older bully. And Amir did nothing to stop it. He didn't step in. He didn't stand up for his friend. He didn't even go and get help. Here in this chapter, Amir's father stands up for the woman and says, "No, I'm not going to let this happen. You're going to have to shoot me before you rape this woman." This is the opposite of Amir. So in the book here, we have two contrasting chapters. In the last chapter, we saw what not to do. Amir doesn't help. He doesn't even go and get help. He doesn't even do the bare minimum. Here, we see Baba put his life on the line. He really is risking his own life to try and save this woman. So even though they're father and son, they are, quite different in that sense. And so Amir reflects on that in this chapter. So now that we've done a little preview for the chapter, it's time for you, of course, once this video is over, to read the chapter on your own. Please click the link in the Google Doc. You got a PDF linking to the chapter. All right, after you read it or while you're reading it, fill out the chart, same chart that you're used to seeing. If I give you a quote, then you write me a description. If I give you a description, then you write me a quote. And please make sure that you put in citations that look like this: author's last name and the page number. Explain why it's important, why it matters, or just why it's interesting to you. In the open response, please make sure that you use a quote from the novel or elsewhere to help support your answer. Remember, you have so many quotes right here. You've got 4 quotes, 2 that you have found, 2 that I have found. Here in the open response for today's class, I'm asking you to try and find a way to help refugees. Help these people who have to leave their country. There are refugees all over the world that could use assistance, not just in the 1980s when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, but all the way up until today. If you guys have any questions, as always, please let me know. I'm here to help out. If you need any assistance with the chart, with the writing, with understanding the story, please let me know. As always, I hope you have a great class. My name is Mr. Oza. Thank you for being part of English class today, and I'll see you in the next video.